What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the farm. As you can see around me, my shop is a wreck from the last project that we completed. So the first thing we're going to do today is clean this up, and we will start in on what you came here for, Operation Cattle Farm. Let's get this cleaned up, and I'll see you on the other side of it. As you can see, we got a lot done, but it ended up being quite a bit more than I expected it to be. Once I started digging into a couple of these things, there's a ton of stuff in here. So I'm gonna finish that off camera, but we're gonna get to the main action today, and we're just gonna kind of go over pieces of the farm here that need to be completed before we bring cattle out here and start our operation. So I would say there are 5 major components to finishing our fencing situation here at the house. Let me show you the first one. The first one is this stretch between the house and the shop. It is going to be a part of the backyard. So we're gonna end up building the fence off the side of the house, connecting over to our shop, just to block off this area of the backyard and keep the dogs in the back. The second piece is the connecting fence from our outside fence to the house. This will completely block off our backyard, but also separate the front yard from the backyard. Also going to have a gate on this one so that the propane guy can reach our tank if he needs to fill it. Also, our air conditioning unit will be contained in the backyard. But yeah, that's the second main component to our fencing issue here. The third and final piece of the new construction out here on fence is going to be this stretch from our connecting fence around our house down to our front gate. It's about a 400-foot stretch of fence. It's going to be top rail just like our surrounding fence, but instead of having the field fence on the side, we're going to have some nice smooth wire fence that runs all the way down in probably 3 or 4 strands to keep the cows from getting onto our driveway. It allows us not to keep our gate closed all the time, but also separates our front pasture from our back pasture, which I'll talk about here in just a second. This is the end of the new construction. Everything else is just completing what we've already started. Also, a part of this third piece is the entry behind me. I've got a piece of 4.5-inch pipe that's going to go from support to support, and that will create a nice entryway for us there. I've also got a sign that I'm going to put out front. That will eventually happen in this project as well. I just wanted to wait till I have the welder out here to get that going. The fourth piece of this project is pretty obvious. We need top rail. About 600 foot of it to be exact, maybe even a little bit more than that, including our front stretch there, probably closer to 1,000 foot of top rail. I've been working on getting some of that. The prices on that have been crazy, so I've been waiting for a good opportunity to get it done, and what a better time than the fall when everybody's kind of slowing down on their fencing projects. I like to work in unconventional weather seasons. The cold doesn't bother me, and right now the grass is pretty green, so I don't have to worry about catching anything on fire. with the welder. So yeah, got a couple pieces of top rail that I've just laid up here. The first piece down there is actually welded on, but this one is not. We'll eventually, once we get the rest of it, we'll bring the welder out and just start welding everything together. All of the saddle cuts are already made in the pipe all the way around the property. So there's really not much to do in the terms of cutting. We may just go back over it with the grinder just to smooth it out. But yeah, top rail is a big thing on the list. And last, but certainly not least, is our gates. Now, I've hung a couple gates on the property already, but there are a bunch of main gates that I'm going to build as well, just so I can access parts of the pasture. Like this space right here, I'm going to have a spring-loaded, self-closing gate, just for us to be able to get out here. I'm probably going to end up running all of our cattle water along this stretch of fence right here, just because the shop is right behind you guys and there's water at the shop. We may end up tapping into that and running a line over here eventually, but that is well on into the future. I want to try to get this thing as operational as possible right now. So those 5 pieces make up our fencing project out here. Now let's talk about the operation. There's a lot, or a little bit, but there's a bunch of different pieces of land that we're going to utilize for our operation, and let's go over that right now. I know a lot of you might be asking right now, why is he building so much fence? And to answer that question, let's go fill the deer feeder up, and I'll explain it all on the way there. You see, I've got really big plans for this place. I've had 3 years to think about it while we lived in this RV. And the one thing that I know for sure is that we're going to eventually need more space. But to start, I want to maximize the land that we do have and make it work for our benefit. So the one thing that I know for sure is that we have perfectly created 3 different spaces for our cattle to graze, and depending on our needs, we can shuffle them around. You see, it's called rotational grazing. That's a term that you're going to hear quite a bit, so keep that in mind. Let's hop in the truck. Rotational grazing is a benefit for a small landowner like me because it allows the grass to recover after periods of grazing. So the 3 places that we have and will have in our future are the main pasture, which is what I'm driving through right now. I would say it's about a 5-acre piece of land that we're going to use as our primary holding space for our heifers and cows and calves as they're born. And also it will be connected to our working chutes, so it's super easy to move those cattle into that place to work them in the spring or whenever we have a new calf. And then we have the back pasture. I would say it's probably a 2-acre piece of land that is across the creek. And right now, to get across the creek, I actually have to cross onto my neighbor's property through this gate that I put in when we originally built these fences. And we'll drive across the creek. Oops. Get you guys right. So right now we're in the back pasture. The back pasture is important because it's going to be a area for giving our main pasture a break. It's about a 2.5 acre square here, and I could always push the cattle on the back side of this. The goal is eventually to have the main pasture and this back pasture kind of joined in as one unit, but as you saw earlier in the video, there's a giant creek running through the middle of it, and it usually stays full of water. So figuring out a way across that is safe for the cattle is currently something that I'm working through. I'm fairly positive I'm going to get an excavator and a skid steer out here one day and just go to town at this creek bank and try to make it as animal and kid friendly as possible, just because I currently can't even send my daughters down here to fish or do anything like that, or even myself, without feeling like we're going to fall in this creek. And as you saw, the banks on these are really steep, so I'm going to throw some corn in this feeder and we'll keep talking there. Alright, now that that's checked, I gotta get this closed and then we will get back in the truck. Come on, Jerry. Come on. Get up. You burned it. You're an old man now. And so what does that leave us? It leaves us the front pasture. The front pasture is, I would say, about the same size as the back pasture, so about 2.5 acres of good quality grass. The back pasture is lesser quality grass. We usually get about 1/4 of the bales that we get off of the front and middle pastures out there. So our front pasture is going to be kind of our hybrid, do-it-all pasture for us. Let me show you why. This is the front pasture. And this is what I'm calling the no man's land. This is probably a 300-foot stretch of land that we're gonna use as kind of a buffer. So we're gonna build a fence from there to that bracing there. And then on the other side, we'll go across as well. And what we'll do with that is we'll put a gate on each end of it. And that will give us plenty of space between our front pasture and our back pasture. All right, it's probably best to wrap this up inside the shop. The wind was getting crazy out there. But yeah, our front pasture is such a unique piece of land because it is separated from the middle pasture, first off. Number two, it has always been a part of our hay cutting every year. And I've been gauging how many bales we usually get off there. We usually get to 6 to 8 bales off of just that front section alone. That's really good. There's really dense grass up there. This whole property used to be a part of a hay pasture for our neighbor's dairy, which is housed in our neighbor's buildings there. So we are going to utilize that space in the springtime to at least get some bales for quite possibly the next winter. The hope is during the winter time and during the fall time, we will actually have the cows grazing 95 to 100% of our property, especially once the back pasture is accessible without my control. So pushing them through a gate, pushing them across the water, and then getting them to the other side. But they will graze almost all of our property after the first cutting of hay. And then during the winter time, what I'll do is I'll let them graze everything down and fertilize it with their manure. And then as spring starts to roll around, probably in late January or early February, I'll go ahead and pull the cows off the front pasture and push them to the middle and back pastures. And then we'll let that
first cutting of spring hay grow in. Probably hit it with some fertilizer, make sure we got good quality, high quality hay. Hit it with some fertilizer, we'll bale the front pasture, and then that gives us usually 6 to 8 bales that we'll put away and be able to use for the next winter. So the hope is here is to minimize our expenditures with our cattle. So, you know, obviously we'll be buying feed in our meat producing cattle and our steers. We'll be grain finishing them, and we'll be finishing them on cubes, high protein cubes. So just trying to put as much weight on them as possible until that kill date that we have set up for them. But yeah, it's been 3 years out here, and I've just had all this time to think about this place and how it's going to operate and how it's going to function. And I feel like I've got a great plan, and I'm so excited to see it start to come into fruition. So what I'm doing now is I am saving money like crazy, trying to get all of our fencing materials bought. I need to buy roughly 38 sticks of pipe and close to 50 or 60 posts. Sometimes I like to buy the whole length and then cut them. Sometimes it actually is cheaper, and when you talk about like acetylene gas and oxygen that you have to buy, it actually can be cheaper to buy the posts pre-cut. So I'm just waiting for a good deal on those, and I'll scoop up as many as I need to finish all of our projects around the property. And as soon as this fence is done, we are going to just be stockpiling money, trying to get a good operating zero to start at, so we can go buy cattle and get them out here and grazing on our grass. But thank you so much for following along today. I know there's a lot of talking in this video and not a whole lot of action. I'm going to finish up this shop off camera because I could probably spend another 2 full days in here if I really wanted to. But yeah, thank you so much for coming along for the ride today. I hope you enjoyed watching me fill a deer feeder and clean the shop up a little bit and show you our plans out here. This is really exciting for us, and we're so excited to take you along with us. But like I always say, keep putting one foot in front of the other and don't get caught at the crossroads. We'll see ya.